Okay, so again, we're kind of starting at the very end, and then we'll get back to how you even get here. So for our friends who are applying to professional year, the application form is the same. It's one form. You just filled out kind of the top section of it when you applied for teacher ed, and then the professional year section is in the exact same form. It's just below it. So if we go in here. And let me scroll on down. So again, this kind of all looks familiar to you folks. So you scroll down past the teacher ed application, past the teacher ed interview section, and then that's where you'll see right here the admission to professional year. So the sections for professional year are as you can see, a little bit simpler than the teacher ed one. This application to professional year form, this is really the same kind of basic, what's your name, what's your major form like you filled out for the teacher ed application. So you'll need to fill that out. Again, this section, the reapplying section, only submit something here if you previously applied for professional year and were denied. If this is your first time applying to professional year, you can just leave this section blank. You don't have to upload anything here. The kind of newer piece of the professional year application is that we do want you to attach a copy of your current resume. So if you, and really the kind of the main point of this is if you haven't created a resume yet, you're kind of at the point where it's going to become really relevant and you're going to need it because you're going to be graduating and applying for jobs. And so I think, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in one of your finishing foundations course, you'll kind of work on that a little bit more. Is that true?
No, I think it'll be more so with your liaison
Okay.
your teacher and just kind of throughout your professional year and when you get closer and with the career fair and mock interviews and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, super, thanks. And so for this attachment for your resume, don't worry if it's not perfect or if you're not really sure how to describe this particular experience or that particular experience. This is really a starting point for your resume. And like Brad said, you'll work on it really throughout your professional year. And so again, you can just upload that, attach it here. The Career Center also has a lot of resources. If you haven't created a resume and it feels sort of overwhelming where to start, you can just hop right on their website. And then kind of let me scroll on down here. So the Praxis IIs, this is really the biggest piece of your professional year application. The only things that you're really sort of doing or submitting in addition to the resume are your Praxis tests and then your background check. So for your Praxis tests, you would just attach your passing, ideally, your passing score sheet. So that official PDF that you would have gotten from the ets.org website. So attach what you have. Basically, the kind of the difference with the Praxis with professional year versus teacher ed is that the professional year application is more black and white. So if you haven't quite passed all of your Praxis II tests, definitely still apply by the deadline, but just know that if you're missing a test, your application will be initially denied. And then as soon as you do pass that test and submit your scores, then you're able to be admitted. So, there's not like a conditional acceptance for professional year. And so again, attach all the information that you have. Again, knowing if you are missing something, you just won't be able to be fully admitted until you do submit that. Again, here, this is just if you are like reapplying and you have new test scores, you would put those here. Probably most of you don't have anything to include that there, so you could leave that blank. And then the last piece here, this is the piece that requires you to do something and go somewhere. So basically, the state requires that everyone does a background check in order to be in the classroom for professional year. And so what you'll do is you'll come to our temporary temporary office in room 220 in the education building and pick up a background check packet. They were in the office, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon, but the packets are also just on the door outside of the office. So you can grab a packet at any point. The directions step by step, Shelley's updated them so they are kind of totally current. And what you'll do is you'll pick up your packet and then it'll walk you through, okay, you need to go to, I think it's the police station in Meridian. I can never remember this. I say it, 6 times a year and I can never remember, but the specific address is all in the packet. So you'll get your fingerprints done there, and then you'll turn your fingerprint card in with your little packet back to our office. So same thing, you can drop it off in person if we're there. Otherwise, there is a drop box on the outside of the door to our office, and you can just put your materials in there. On task stream, what we just ask you to do is let us know when you turned your card in, mostly because with this strange office setup due to Corona, it's likely that you'll drop it off when we're not there, and we just want to make sure that we have everything. Shelley, is there anything else that you want to add to this part?
Sure. I'd mentioned this in the packet instructions as well, but should we be absent when you drop off your packet materials, please have them stapled together before you put them in the drop box. That way all of your materials will stay with your forms and fingerprint card, etc. That I would appreciate. And I can also tell you that you'll have to staple it before coming to campus or on the first floor if they have a stapler in the computer lab.
Super, thank you. Okay, professional year applicants, any questions? Feel free, I can't see everybody, so feel free to unmute yourself and just ask a question if you have one.
Yeah, so I had a couple questions. For the diversified field experience in the initial application, I wasn't sure what all of the options meant or what I should put there.
Okay, let's find that. I think that was a new thing that they added this year.
Yeah, it's closer to the bottom.
Okay, thanks. Critical, okay, adjudication. Okay. So I guess this is just asking sort of, have you done any of these things? Like, when you took LLC 200, did your class have service learning hours connected to it? Same thing when you took LLC 340, did you do any of that? If you've had different kind of field work or work in the schools experience, you can just write it in here. Same thing here. Really, this is just making sure that that kind of once we do everyone's placements, we need to make sure that everyone has had some form of diverse field placement by the time they graduate. And so we just want to know what experience you have or haven't had thus far.
Okay, yeah. And then my other question was, do you have to go to the Meridian Police Department to get yours done?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, which when this like COVID day and age feels like we may as well ask you to drive to like Portland or something, but it's, yes, unfortunately you do have to go to that specific location.
All right, thank you.
Okay, last call for professional year questions.
Hi, yeah. So I just had a question about the Praxis. So say like by like February 5th, like you either haven't received your scores from one of your Praxis or you did not pass it the first time. Will you just need to like you will get denied, and then do you need to go in and just like upload your scores, or do you need to reapply completely?
Great question. You do not need to reapply completely. It's really just uploading your scores, and Lori French in our office, she processes all of the professional year applications. So what you'd want to do is upload them to like this Praxis II section. And then I would also shoot Lori a quick note, and it's just lfrench@boisestate.edu, and say, hey, you know, I was initially denied because I was missing this praxis. I've uploaded it to TaskStream. I should be good to go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What was that email again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's lfrench. And it's probably on here somewhere. I don't remember.
L French at just Boise State.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then I had also a question.
Yeah.
So, for endorsement areas for Praxis, I'm currently taking Ed LLC 343,
Mhm.
which is like, I guess figuring out how to do assessments and stuff for literacy.
Yeah.
And the teacher was saying that we should take our praxis closer for that reading specialist praxis closer to the end of that taking that class. But the application does say that it's like for endorsement areas that it needs to be in there. So which is like the
Yes.
right-
And the reason I think there's a bit of inconsistency there is we've sort of gone back and forth, but the rule is that it does have to be passed in order for you to be admitted to your professional year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then I am going to reverse gears here a little bit and start at the beginning. Okay, so for those of you who are applying to teacher ed, you are going to start, your journey begins here on the teacher ed website under the applications tab. So if you haven't done so already, you are going to fill out a brief survey to request the codes necessary to create your application. So this TaskStream website that we were just on and we'll go back to, in order to get access to that and not have to pay for it, very important, you'll need to get these specific codes from me. So what you will do is you'll complete one of two surveys. So for our elementary ed, special ed, early childhood folks, you all will click elementary. And then for art, music, PE, theater, etc., you all will click the secondary one. And really, if you accidentally fill out the wrong one, that's completely fine. It comes to me and it lets me look you up really quickly just to make sure that it does look like you're ready to apply. And then what will happen next is I will send you an email with two documents. The first has directions for how to create that TaskStream account. And then the second has directions for how to, let's go back here, maybe. I'd like to go back. Well, okay, the second is how to add the actual application form. So, so you'll remember, sorry, I'm on my laptop and I can't see everything at the same time. So when we were in that home screen and you saw kind of, I had a couple different forms up there, that's where you will enter the code to add the specific, this one, the applications, teacher ed, and professional year. Okay, so basically, by that February 5th deadline, what you need to do on TaskStream is to complete each of these sections that's under the admission to teacher education heading. So on our list here, anything that has a green exclamation point, that just lets you know that there's nothing you actually need to do on TaskStream. So like for the GPA, it's just a reminder that a 3.0 is required, but that's something that when we process applications, we will check. So if we go back up to the top here, the first section is this basic form with your name, your major, your ID, And then it also asks you to fill out this adjudication form. So what this is if you have either been found guilty of violating the Boise State Code of Conduct, or perhaps got a MIP or something like that, you do need to disclose it. It's not, having something like that does not necessarily mean that you can't be admitted to the program. It just means that you do need to go through the process of appealing to the Professional Standards and Appeals Committee if you haven't already done so. So again, just kind of answer this honestly, truthfully. And then if you haven't been cleared by the Professional Standards and Appeals Committee yet, there is a form on our website that you will need to submit the adjudication appeal. So all that information is also on our website. If you previously appealed, let's say you had I don't know, some residence hall violation, and you previously appealed for maybe your LLC 200 course or something like that, then you can say, yes, I was already cleared, and roughly when that was. So you don't have to sort of go through the process again if you've already been cleared. Okay. This section, the reapplying one, this only applies if you previously have applied to teacher ed and were denied. If this is your first time applying to teacher ed, just leave this blank. There's nothing that you need to submit. If you are reapplying, you can either attach a statement or write in the text box, really explaining, okay, I previously applied on this date or this semester, and I was denied for this particular reason. So, maybe now my GPA is higher and that's why I'm reapplying, or I was missing a class and I now have that class in progress, so I'm reapplying. So again, just let us know kind of what has changed. Okay, so the first of the written pieces on here is the letter of application. And you can see here that it gives you specific prompts to respond to in this letter. You can think of this as a cover letter, like you would write if you were applying for a job, where the language that you use is professional, but it's not an essay. Like, it's not a paper that you would write for a class. Don't cite anything, you don't need to have a conclusion and any of that. The point of this letter is really for us, for your interview team, to get to know you. And that's why what we want to hear about in this letter is you. What are your goals? Why are you here? What motivates you? Why do you want to teach? What are your experiences? So really, the most important thing to keep in mind with this is making sure that sort of you're using your voice and you're speaking genuinely and openly about yourself. It's one of those where I think the only time that this sort of goes poorly is if folks think that we're looking for like some specific answer, or some like, oh, I better tie in this theory from this class or this. Nope. We just want to hear you in this letter. And it's about a page. If it's slightly longer, that's fine. But again, it's a letter. It's not an essay about your entire life. And you will have the opportunity to really kind of expand on what you bring up in this letter of application during your interview. Okay. Brad, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that? Nope. Okay, cool. Okay, and so you can see that you'll just write this as a Word document or a PDF and then attach it. Okay, so the next section is the Praxis I. So just to clarify, the Praxis I is not required for our secondary friends. So art, music, PE, you folks do not need to take this core academic skills for educators math praxis. Everyone else, you get to. So ideally, in a perfect world, you would have taken the test already and received your official passing score. And so if you do have that score sheet from ETS, you'll just attach it here. And that's all you need to do, to attach your passing score sheet. If you, maybe you, like in my example here, you've taken the test and you didn't pass it the first time, what you can do is attach your receipt showing when you're scheduled to take it next, and then just tell us what your plan is here. So, I took it, I didn't pass, I got a 140, I'm rescheduled to take it maybe after the deadline. Just sort of the more information you can give us in this section, the better. So we know exactly what your plans are. And if you still have that praxis test pending, when to follow up with you on that. So I would say really just please make sure that you have registered for the test by February 5th, because we do need to see kind of that intent that, okay, maybe it wasn't done by the technical deadline, but you have scheduled it and you do have it coming up. Okay, so like I said before, there's nothing you need to do on here for the GPA. It's something we'll calculate when we process the applications. Okay, Brad, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you talk about the case studies because you know this a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, so you will be asked to respond to an ethical case study as part of the application process. It is something that we do at different points through the program. Some of you may have taken EdSIPS 201 Foundations of Education and are familiar with the Gorski book and the ethical case studies and responding to those. So we are now asking, we replaced our old case studies with responding to these particular ones. You'll notice that, and can you scroll down a little bit? I haven't seen this yet, is that you'll have multiple choices here. So you'll select one. Now up above, if you can go up a little bit more, sorry, Rachel. So right here, so some programs have requested, actually one special ed has requested that you do a specific case study. And so for those of you who are dual sped elementary, special ed, elementary ed, special ed, early childhood, elementary, special ed, early childhood, any of those, if that is your major, then you will need to respond to case study number 1. For those of you in other programs, if you're elementary ed, TESOL, then you will select from the list of case studies. And really this is just, your response is more informative for the program and to see kind of where you're at this point in the program. As I mentioned, some of you may have done this already in EdSIPS 201. This is a new process. And then, so we're looking at multiple points. You did it early in the program, you do it at application, and then you'll do it again at the end of your time at Boise State. So just be genuine. Respond to the best of your ability. We're not going to look at this or make any judgment or evaluation off of your acceptance into the program solely off of this. It's more to inform us and also to give us an opportunity to give any feedback that we may find in there for you to work on. So again, be genuine, how you feel right now with regards to this particular scenario. So it is focused on ethics and equity. Yep.
And you can see here that this one doesn't give you the option to attach anything. It just gives you a text box. So I would write your response in a Word document and then copy and paste it into the text box here, rather than just kind of sitting logged in trying to type it into the text box. Okay, so then the last two pieces on task stream here, content options, interesting, are these two surveys. And these surveys, you do need to complete them in order for your application to be complete. But your answers on these surveys have absolutely no bearing whatsoever on your admittance to the program. A lot of it is kind of to help us know how we can grow. So, if you if you right now feel like, wow, I don't know anything about this, or I really want more instruction about this, then we want to know, because we want to continue to tweak our programs to be sort of as comprehensive and as helpful for you as possible. So just know that you can be totally honest on this, and your answers have no bearing on your acceptance to the program. So we've got those 2 surveys. And then the last piece, this piece, the application fee, needs to be either a check or a money order. We cannot take cash or credit cards. And it's something, oh, we should update this room. And it's something that does need to be turned in to our temporary office that, as I said earlier, is actually room 220 now. This is where we were last semester. So room 220. If we are there, you can absolutely turn that in person. Otherwise, like I said, we have that drop box on the front of the door. And so you can just stick the check or money order in there. Please make sure that you have your name and your student ID number on the check. Because in the past, it's like, oh, my grandma wrote my check for me. And we're like, who's Dolores Smith? Like, we don't have an application for her. So please make sure that we know that's your application fee, so we don't come kind of hounding you, asking where it is. If you would prefer not to come to campus, you can also mail it. This is our mailing address. And then this check or money order is made out to Boise State University. Okay, so those are the sections that need to be done by February 5th. You can see up here, we're in kind of the working section of the application. This tab here, where it says scores or reports, this is going to be your friend for making sure that you have everything submitted by that February 5th deadline. So you can see once you've started filling something out, it's going to show you that your work is in progress. Once you submit a section, you're going to get a nice little green check mark here that says submitted. By February 5th, you want to make sure that you don't have any hourglasses left here, that everything that is relevant. So again, you may or may not be including anything for the reapplying. And if you are a secondary ed major, you're not attaching anything for the Praxis, but every other section, just make sure that it is submitted, because if you don't submit even one particular section, your application doesn't show up as completed on our report, and we'll probably miss you. So please, please, please use this tab to check your work there. And you can, so once you submit something, there is an action to cancel the submission. So if you, I don't know, you accidentally submitted something and then you want to go back and change it, you do have the option to do that up until that February 5th deadline. Okay, so that is everything that is due February 5th. Shelley, do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of the timeline and the process, what happens after February 5th?
Sure. It takes us about a couple of weeks to process the applications. And so I would anticipate that you will be receiving your letter, your invitation to interview, probably by the end of the 3rd week in February. And you should have received a denial letter as well by that time. If you are a secondary education major, you will not be receiving an invitation to interview from myself. You will be receiving an invitation from the program coordinator for your particular program. And if you don't have one by late February, please contact me and I can look into it and see what's going on. So as soon as you do get your letter to interview, if you're an elementary education major, I usually send them out in batches based on programs. So typically I send all of the elementary education invites at the same time, and likewise with the dual degrees as well, whether that's special education or TESOL. So you may not get your invite the same day as one of your colleagues. But just know that it is coming. And then when you do receive that email, it is very important that you sign up as soon as you receive it. The interview slots are first come, first serve, and they do go quickly. So if you get in there and there's only a few left, it's because people have gotten in there before you. So you'll have to take what's available and make it work somehow. And also, I should mention that you only want to sign up for one interview appointment slot because we only have as many slots available as there are interviewees. That's a very important detail. And then I think that's everything. Oh, one other good point is to make sure that the device that you sign up on is set to Mountain Standard Time. It happens at least a couple times every semester where somebody went to the Oregon coast for the weekend and they signed up when they were there, but they ended up signing up for the wrong time. So one important detail to note. So if you don't have any questions about that, I think that's my piece.
Super. And then these interviews are going to be done on Zoom again this semester. So we're not going to be asking you to come to campus. You will be able to do it from home. All right. Take it away, Brad.
Okay, I'll come back in a little bit to the interview outline piece. I want to kind of talk about some things that are more of a commonality amongst the various programs. So some of you are in secondary ed, so every program may have a differing format for their particular interview or a differing focus. One thing that is common across the programs that I just want to give a general overview for are the dispositions of equality educators. So you are going to be evaluated based off of those dispositions. And so just to give you kind of an idea of what those are, one is the disposition of character. And so within the disposition of character, what we're looking for is your self-awareness. So how aware are you of your strengths and areas of growth? Awareness of your own bias and how that may impact who you are as a learner and as an educator. We're also looking at balance as well. So your ability to balance things, and that could be being able to say no when you just can't do it, and also too to be focusing on your own self-care because you can't care for your students if you're not taking care of yourself. And then a third part of the disposition of character is humility. So understanding that you have areas of growth, that you're not perfect, and that you have and you are going to fail. And it is through those mistakes that's an integral part of the learning process. That's how we learn. So having that humility, being able to say when we don't know something, and that's okay to do. The second disposition is the disposition of care. And within the disposition of care, we're looking at receptivity. So how receptive individuals are to other perspectives, other ideas, other needs, as well as connectivity. So how well can an individual, if I can say that word, connect to others and recognize those needs, develop relationships, build those trusting relationships with others. And then the third part within the disposition of care is inclusivity. So recognizing diverse learners within our learning environment and being inclusive and being open-minded, open to those other perspectives and needs. The third is, and I just noticed, Rachel, this is the old dispositions that are up there that you have on the screen. But the disposition of pedagogical stance is one where we're looking at your educator identity. So within your educator identity, it's thinking about questions like, what is the purpose of education? What are my beliefs about teaching and learning? So what is your philosophical stance? And then in addition to educator identity, we also have adaptability. And so as an educator, it's important to be able to adapt in a moment's notice, be flexible to any changes that may arise. And then the third part of pedagogical stance is a capacity for change. And so within that, so as something I often tell my students is that you'll never just be a teacher. You are constantly becoming a better one. And so being able to have that capacity for change, you're going to continue to evolve as an educator, and you're going to keep learning. We're all lifelong learners. So having that capacity for change, not just being stuck in our own ways. And then the fourth disposition is professional commitment. So within professional commitment, it's about advocacy. So we often talk about being an advocate for our students, but this is also being an advocate for the profession, for teaching, for being an advocate in the community as well. Another piece of professional commitment is displaying professionalism. So that could be in attire, timeliness, communication. And then the last piece within professional commitment is your dedication. So how dedicated are you to this profession? How passionate are you about teaching and learning? So this is really across programs. These are things that we're evaluating, dispositions that we're evaluating as part of the interview process. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and you can go back to task stream, Rachel, thank you, is that, so the format may look different. And sometimes in secondary, maybe it's really focused on the content, but again, looking at those dispositions. What I will talk to is specifically for elementary, special, and early childhood. I don't know if any other secondary programs use this or not, but you will be required to submit an interview outline. So your format is going to be, you are going to create an 8-minute speech. And I don't like to say presentation because people start thinking, oh, I need PowerPoint slides and all that. It's not, it's just a speech. And so you're given specific prompts. So like scrolling down, you see, so why do you want to teach? What goals should a good educator attempt to accomplish? And so you're going to give up to an 8-minute, it doesn't have to be 8 minutes. It should be longer than 2, right? But we will stop you at 8. But you will be discussing each of these areas. And then after that up to 8-minute speech, then it's really kind of just open to discussion. And so it will be a panel interview. And I believe most are panels. It's just what you're doing may look different depending on your program. And it's really just open to the discussion, asking you questions about things that you presented in your interview. It could also be things from your ethical case study. It could be things from your letter of application. So all of those documents your interview team is going to look at. Interview teams will look different. Normally the panel is usually about 3. I could just give an example. The team I'm on is myself, another faculty member, and usually we bring in a teacher from the district to get different perspectives. But again, each interview team based off programs, it may look different. But you will be, those of you who are required to do an outline, you will need to submit this outline on TaskStream within 24 hours of your interview time. So if you are scheduled to interview on a Wednesday at 9 a.m., then your interview outline needs to be posted by Tuesday at 9 a.m. So 24 hours ahead. An important piece with the interview outline is that it is called an outline for a reason. So do not write the full script of your speech. Okay, as an interviewer, I'll say it's very distracting to be reading the words while you're saying them, and so it's not as engaging. And so the outline is really, think of it as an outline, but it's meant to help just guide the interview team to follow along with your speech, with your presentation. So for example, it could just be, all right, so Roman numeral 1, why do you want to teach? So bullet point, Mrs. Smith, 2nd grade teacher. And then bullet point, passion for learning, so, and so then you're going to talk more in depth, obviously, about those things. And, oh, well, Mrs. Smith, my 2nd grade teacher, really made a huge impact on me. She saw I was struggling and took the extra time to work with me, whatever it might be. And so that's what you're presenting. And we know, we're looking at the outline, oh, okay, so-and-so is talking about Mrs. Smith, their 2nd grade teacher. So be sure to make it an outline. It should just be 1 page. It shouldn't be multiple pages at all with that. So know, in particular, if your program requires this outline, which I know specifically elementary ed, special ed, and early childhood do, that you will need to have that posted 24 hours in advance as well. So other things with the interview is that I'll talk about just the different, because sometimes it can be a little confusing, the different acceptance statuses that we have as part of this process. And so we basically have three, or well, four, 3.5 in a sense, is so you will be you could be fully admitted. Oh, actually, one thing I want to point out is that before I get into that piece, actually, is that following your interview team, and again, this is going to be a little bit more elementary, special, early childhood. I don't know exactly how other programs inform you of your acceptance status, but for those in elementary, special, and early, is a letter will be posted on TaskStream, usually within 2 weeks after your interview, and you should receive an automated email from TaskStream notifying you that the letter has been posted. Be sure you go and look at that letter to read what your status will be. So that's how you will be communicated with, is through that letter on TaskStream. Now, with regards to the status, so one would be fully accepted. So that would mean that you've passed the interview and that you've already fulfilled all other academic requirements. And so that would be fully accepted. Then on the other side of it would be denied. And so denial would be you have not met those requirements, whether that is you don't meet the academic requirements, coursework, GPA, whatever it might be, or for dispositional reasons that you are fully denied. Now, the middle area is conditional acceptance. And so with conditional acceptance, one is academic. So many of you will likely have pending coursework, like you're currently in progress with required lower division coursework that is necessary to be fully accepted into the program. So you may, in that instance, be academically conditional after the interview process. So you pass the interview, but you have academic conditions. Well, you need to pass Ed Tech 202 at the end of the semester. Or it could be GPA, like you're close to that 3.0. And so then we check at the end of the semester, are you at that GPA level? So you would have that academic conditional, and that's something that we will review at the end of the semester to see that, okay, courses were passed, GPA is good, all of that. And in that instance, if you pass the class, your GPA is good, then you're accepted. You won't hear from us at all, which is a good thing if you don't hear from us in that instance. If you don't meet those requirements, then you will hear from us. And at that point, you would be then denied because you didn't meet those academic conditions. The other conditional piece too is dispositional. So as I just talked about, those 4 main disposition areas that we use as an interview team to evaluate you and provide you feedback. In some instances, the interview team may identify certain areas that needs a little further work. And so in that instance, you may be conditional for disposition reasons. And that process is you will end up being assigned a faculty advocate and work with that faculty advocate to create a development plan, which you will work together with your faculty advocate in order to meet any of the reasons for that conditional status for disposition reasons. And then you will, so when you're conditional, academic or dispositional, you're able to continue through the program, register for classes, all of that piece. With the disposition piece is you will end up re-interviewing the next application cycle to discuss the things that you worked on with your faculty advocate. So those are the 4: fully accepted, academic conditional, that's basically up to you, getting the coursework done, passing the course GPA. At that point, if you do so, you're accepted. Dispositional reasons, you work with a faculty advocate, create a development plan, end up re-interviewing. You're continuing on in the program. It doesn't stop you. You're able to register, take courses, and move forward. And then the final would be the denial piece. Now, one thing that I'll say, just 3 things to really consider with regards to your interview, and regardless of program. that I would really recommend is, so one is be professional. And so, like I mentioned with the professional commitment disposition, you know, even on Zoom, be dress Zoom professional, right? At least be on time. That's really important because as Shelley was talking earlier about working with interview teams to set up schedules, is that they're back to back to back. And so if you're not on time, you may miss your interview and not be interviewed. So be sure that you're on time. And then two, professional communication. You know, so consider this, think about this interview as and really a purpose behind this is kind of practice for when you actually are interviewing with a principal. So communicate with your interview team in that professional manner. In some cases, you may know them and know them well, but be sure that you are communicating professionally. So be professional. Another is be prepared. And so really think about, so whatever the format is, really be thinking about what your beliefs are about teaching and learning, who you are as an educator, who you want to be as an educator, and be prepared to be able to clearly articulate those reasons, and who you want to become and what you want out of the program in order to be successful, because we're here to help you develop into a quality educator. For some of you, if you're doing the speech like I discussed earlier, for some programs, I'll say feel free to have note cards, you know, and use those, but don't hold them up in front of your face and just read from it. You still, even on Zoom, still be engaged, still have the eye contact with the team. But it's great to have, just in case it's like, oh, because it's a stressful, it's a nervous situation that, oh wait, what was I going to say next? Oh yeah, I was going to talk about this. So it's great to have those. Just don't read from it. Be engaged with the interview team. So be professional, be prepared. And then the final I would say is be genuine. So be yourself. Don't try to say things that you think the interview team wants to hear, because you'll really catch yourself and you may contradict yourself. And really, honestly, consider this. So as an interview team, sure, we are evaluating you, but we're not there to judge you. We are there to support you. And to listen to some of these ideas, your thoughts, your perspective. And it's an opportunity for us to support you and to give you some constructive feedback, to things for you to work on in order for you to become a quality educator. So that's the role of this. And so if you're not genuine, if you're not yourself, then we can't provide you with that constructive feedback. And so be yourself. That's important. So be professional, be prepared, be genuine. That's what I would encourage you all to do in your interviews.
Catherine, do you want to share just a little bit for any of our I Do Teach friends what their interview might look like? And I guess if you know, I don't, but if you know what any of the other secondary ed folks tend to do, just to give folks an idea of what their interview might look like if it's not the College of Ed one.
Yeah, so I Do Teach also does an 8-minute lesson, except theirs is slightly different. They want you to teach something. So that can be how to make a sandwich. It can be how to tie your shoes. It doesn't have to be anything about STEM. It can also be about STEM, but you will have 8 minutes to teach a group of professors something. And sometimes I'm on your interview team and I am not a professor. And so I've thrown a wrench a couple times on accident when I didn't know the math they were talking about. But yeah, it's still 8 minutes. And then a few other programs, they also do teach us something, but it's usually discipline specific. And I know one department, but they're not accepting applications right now. They do group interviews, and it's like talking about challenges that you've overcome. But I would say the goal of them is not to get rid of you. The goal of them is to see where you are now and how you can be better once you're in the program. It's not a competition. There's not a mandatory number of students that will be cut. It's more evaluative than it is judgmental, like Brad was saying.
Perfect, thank you. Brad, do you want to share the TEA workshops? Or
I just
information?
copied the link. And so one thing I wanted to mention to those of you is that, and some of you may be familiar with TEA, the Teacher Education Ambassadors. So it's a student group of education majors. And I'm going to share in my chat, in the chat here, a link. So the TEA is going to be conducting some peer work sessions to help, and so these will be peers who have recently gone through the application process. So they're there to kind of just help you with any questions and kind of to navigate through the process. Also, too, feel free to contact your advisor with any questions as well. So I just did I share that out? Hopefully.
I think so.
So you can go to that link. I think they're having one this afternoon, but they're having a couple others as well. So that could be another great resource to work with some of your peers just to answer questions as well. Yep.
Cool. All right, well, we've got a couple minutes. So yeah, feel free to unmute and ask a question.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if we haven't taken the Praxis exam, but it's scheduled for a date after February 5th, is that still okay? Do we just submit the proof that we're registered for the exam when we submit our application?
Yes. So, yes, you will attach your receipt showing that you are scheduled to take it, call it March 1st. And then that lets us know that, okay, we have to remember to follow up with you to check to make sure that by the end of the semester, when we do those conditional checks, that we have your passing Praxis score. So for teacher ed, the Praxis piece is also a conditional academic piece. So it's okay if you haven't taken it yet. As soon as you do, and as soon as you have your passing scores, please just send them to Shelley, so we know that that we can kind of check that box and cross that off your academic conditional list.
Perfect, thank you. And then I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I was going to register for my Praxis and it brought me to two different sites. I know that we have to take the 5733 one on the ets.org, but it also brought me to an Idaho state standard one. So I wasn't sure which was the correct exam.
Yes, thank you. And I am just going to show on here. I've recently created my own Praxis account because it was confusing the bejesus out of me how you're supposed to do this. So I think the easiest way to find it is Google Praxis 5733. On the website here, you'll go to register now. Registration, okay. You'll log in or create an account if you don't already have one. So I'm just going to kind of skip through this pretty quickly. So you'll fill in all of your information. Brad, maybe one day we'll actually take these tests. I skipped all this background information. So when you get to the page where you go to actually sign up for the test, you're right. If you try to search by the Idaho requirements, you won't find it. You have to click this button, this list of test requirements, EPP, education or educational preparation program requirements. And if you click there, that's when, if you scroll on down, you'll find test number 5733. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, that, why that's the case, I don't know. I think ETS just tries to make things confusing on purpose sometimes. So just know that that EPP test button, that's where you find it.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for like the general application, if I had, so I had an MIC back in 2013, is that something I would have to disclose?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. So
I think you're muted now.
I know you touched on this at the beginning, someone else who I might be in contact with, but I'm just wondering, how specifically do I find out what I need to do in addition or even just differently for the PE application?
Oh, so basically the sections on here are all going to be the same. And then when you kind of after you submit all of this by February 5th, then when you get that that communication from your program coordinator in that email or that letter, that's when they'll tell you what your next step, like for the interview, is going to look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this first portion will be the same either way.
Exactly. Yep. So everybody fills out this first one.
I have a question. When we're registering for the task stream account, there's like a part. So I'm elementary education with a middle school math endorsement. So so then my program would be the pre-K and elementary, and then my graduate certificate, is that still elementary, or do I need to do secondary math?
So you're just your degree is elementary ed, and then your endorsement area is just math.
Okay, so is that, sorry, again, is this, so for my graduate certificate, it's still elementary education, elementary?
So the graduate certificate is actually a different program. So that's, and I guess technically it doesn't even really exist so much anymore. It's phased into the master's program. But are you in this section?
Oops, sorry. No, I'm still trying to get like my account like registered.
Oh, okay. No, so you can just, when you do that, you don't have to fill anything out for graduate certificate because that's a different program. So it's just indicating that you're elementary ed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a really quick question about the registration for TaskStream, like to get the code. One of the first things I ask is our GPA. If I'm currently taking classes, how will I know what my education GPA is?
That is a great question. So some of your academic advisement reports, your AARs, if you go onto that and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, some of them will show the education GPA because these systems are never perfect. Some of your majors won't. And so in that case, it's okay to kind of guess because when we process your application, we're going to calculate that. And so if you're not exactly sure, just kind of make your best guess because again, that survey that to request access to TaskStream, the purpose is really just so I can kind of make sure that, you know, you're not a first semester freshman and sort of not ready to apply. So don't worry too much about knowing that exact number.
Thank you.
I had a quick question about the application fee. So I'm in TRIO teacher prep, and my TRIO advisor told me that there is a waiver that they give that they'll pay for that application. If he emails me that waiver, who do I send it to?
So are you referring, I apologize, Rachel. Are you referring to Josh?
Yeah, Josh is my advisor.
Typically what happens is they email myself directly and I can take note that you are in fact paid.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shelly. I was going to say Shelly needs to answer that one. Okay, well, in that case, folks, we have hit our hour. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions or anything else comes up as you go. And tell your friends, we're doing this 2 more times. As wonderful and fun as I know we are, this will be exactly the same the next time. So don't feel like you need to join us again unless you really want to. But yeah, just let us know if anything else comes up. All right, thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.